This is Unit 6, Investigation 1.4, where we will find the same fractional parts of a different size. Our learning targets are, I can find fractional parts of a rectangular area, I can find fractional parts of a group, and I can compare the same fractional parts in different sizes. We have been finding fractional parts on 4x6 rectangles like the ones you see on the left here. Now we're going to be working with the different rectangles. These are 5x12 rectangles. I'd like you to think about how they're different sizes. So would a fraction of the 4x6 rectangle be the same size as the fraction of the 5x12 rectangle? For example, would half of a 4x6 rectangle be the same size as half of the 5x12 rectangle? When you find half of the 5x6 rectangle, what is different from when I found half of the 4x6 rectangle? You might say that it's very similar. You would just find half, draw a line across the middle so that both sides are equal. Other people might think about how there's a certain number of little squares in my 4x6 rectangles and my 5x12 rectangles, and so I can think about finding half of all of the little squares. For example, there are 60 little squares in my 5x12 rectangle, so I know there's going to be 30 over here and 30 over here. And hopefully you've noticed that the half of the 5x12 rectangle is bigger than the half of the 4x6 rectangle because the whole rectangle is bigger. You can compare this to having a small pizza versus an extra large pizza. If you had half a pizza, you would still have more if you had the extra large pizza. We're going to be working with the 5x12 rectangles today, making some fractions, just like we did with the 4x6 rectangles. I'm going to show you with a few examples. I just did 1/2, so I'm going to try 1/3. Now, this is just your reminder that when you're working with fractions, the top number, which is called the numerator, shows you how much of the fraction you have, and the bottom number, which is the denominator, shows you how much you have cut your whole into. So for 1/3, I want to have 3 pieces that I cut, and then I need to shade in one of them. Now, I'm thinking about how there's 60 altogether on this 5x6 rectangle. I want to have 3 equal parts so that my fraction is 1/3. So right away I noticed that if I tried to divide this way, it wouldn't quite work. So instead, I know I need to divide from top to bottom or vertically. I know that there are 12 rows going vertically, so I can do 12 divided by 3 is 4 and count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then divide 1, 2, 3, 4, and divide again, and then I have equal fair shares with 1/3. I'll shade in my 1/3 to show the fraction. Again, I'm noticing that I can't go horizontally because if I do, I'm not using the lines in the rectangle. So instead, I'm going to do 12 divided by 4 is 3, so I know I can do 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and I have 4, which is my denominator, and then I can shade in 1 to make 1/4. Now, if I wanted to make 2/4 instead of 1/4, then I would just, of course, shade in another one of my 4 boxes so that my numerator 2 matches the 2 that I've shaded in. The next one that I wanted to try was 1/5, and because this is a 5 by 12 rectangle, I can finally divide this way to make my fifths. As you can see, I have 5 equal sections of my fraction, so it makes fair shares, and I can shade in one of them. I'm just going to quickly make 1/6 and 1/12 just to show you. I'm going to try 1/12 first because I know that this is a 5 by 12 rectangle, so I can just cut my fraction this way into 12 pieces, and of course my numerator being 1, I can shade in one of them. If this was a different fraction, like say 5/12, then I would just shade in 5 boxes. Now 1/6 and 1/12 are related because 6 times 2 is 12. So when I do 1/6, I can just cut every other line like this, and that creates 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 equal spots on my fraction, and then I can shade in one of them. Alright, so we're finally at your assignment. Today you're going to use page 11 to start with, and you will need extra 5 by 12 rectangle pages, which I have for you. And these are the fractions I'd like you to find on your 5 by 12 rectangles. Please make sure that you put these in your math binder as a resource for you, the way that the 4 by 6 rectangles were used later when we were doing problems about 24. All of these fractions should be helpful later, so make sure you keep them and make sure that you label them. So go ahead and pause your video right here so that you can see the different fractions you'll be doing, and open your binder to page 11 and start working on this. All right, when you finish with that, I want you to consider some questions for me. Is 2/3 of the area of the 5 by 12 rectangle more or less than 2/3 of the area of the 4 by 6 rectangles? And how do you know? Now, hopefully you're remembering the pizza comparison that we made earlier. You can also get out a page of 4 by 6 rectangles and look for 2/3, and you can definitely see that 2/3 on the 5 by 12 rectangles is just more because there's more area. All right, so if you're finished with your assignment, I'd like for you to go onto the Blogspot. That's mrssetliff.blogspot.com, and I have created a link right over here for ABC, and you will be doing some fraction comparing for the rest of class time today. After you click on Go, make sure that you select fractions so that you're working on the correct skill. Also, if you have any questions about the 5 by 12 rectangles or the fractions you made today, please make sure you ask. Nice job. Thank you. All right, let's get back to work.